People tell you you're the perfect couple. You finish each other's sentences. You know his coffee order, his tells, the exact tone he uses right before he cancels the plans he actually wanted to keep. When did he last genuinely surprise you? Not with a gift, not with a gesture rehearsed for your birthday. Surprise you with a thought you hadn't already assumed he was going to have. Sit with that for a second. Because a psychologist named Harriet Lerner published a book in 1985 called The Dance of Anger, and buried inside it is the exact word for what happens to couples like yours next. She didn't call it closeness. She didn't call it soulmates. She used a colder, more accurate word. Fusion. Fusion is what real distance looks like when it's wearing the costume of we. It's the point in a long relationship where two people become so emotionally entangled that they lose the ability to tell where one nervous system ends and the other begins. Two adults, one shared mood weather system. You can feel his stress before he tells you. He can feel yours before you name it. That sounds like intimacy. It's actually something else. When did you two last disagree about something that actually mattered to you? Not the small stuff, not what to eat for dinner. I mean the kind of disagreement where you have to hold your own opinion under pressure, look him in the eye, and stay yourself. If you can't remember, keep reading. Lerner was building on the work of a family therapist named Murray Bowen. Bowen spent decades watching families in his clinic and noticed something almost no one else was looking at. In the closest, most enmeshed families, people weren't calmer. They were more anxious. They just outsourced their anxiety to each other so cleanly that no single person had to feel it alone. He called the escape hatch differentiation of self, the ability to stay connected to someone you love without dissolving into them. Fusion is the failure to do that. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. In fusion, you don't fight less because you're aligned. You fight less because you've quietly stopped bringing the parts of yourself that would create friction. You edit them out. You round the corners of your own opinions before they leave your mouth. You call this being easygoing. You call it maturity. You call it love. It isn't. It's a slow surrender. Not of the relationship, of yourself inside it. And here's the part no one warned you about. Fusion doesn't feel like distance. That's what makes it dangerous. It feels safe. It feels like home. It feels like finally being understood. Your brain reads the merged state as reward because it removes the sting of feeling different, misunderstood, or alone in your own head. Two nervous systems sharing one anxious hum is still less overwhelming than facing that hum by yourself. So you settle into it. You call it peace. But peace built on the erasure of your inner life isn't peace. It's silence with a nicer soundtrack. The relationship therapist David Schnarch, who spent 30 years studying long-term couples, made a claim that sounded almost cruel when he first wrote it. He said that the couples who describe themselves as so close we're basically the same person are often the couples whose desire for each other has quietly disappeared. Not because love ended, because there's no longer a separate person on the other side of the bed to want. Desire needs difference. Difference needs a self. A self needs the courage to still exist in front of the person who knows you best. When did you last let him see a thought of yours that surprised him? Not upset him. Surprised him. Made him pause and go, I didn't know you thought that about that. If you have to reach back years, this is what you're inside of. Fusion doesn't look like screaming. Fusion looks like harmony. It looks like the two of you laughing at the same joke before either of you has said it. It looks like the friend who says, God, you two are so in sync. Fusion is the thing everyone else compliments while it slowly costs you the private country of your own mind. And here's the twist Lerner names that most women miss. Fusion isn't caused by loving him too much. It's caused by being afraid of what happens if you're too different from him. Afraid of the fight. Afraid of the withdrawal. Afraid of the tiny sting when he looks a little disappointed in something you thought. So you preempt it. You self-edit before the disappointment can land. Fusion is a fear response, wearing a wedding ring. Real intimacy is the opposite motion. Real intimacy is when two whole people, who can each stand on their own, choose to stay close. Bowen called this being differentiated and connected at the same time. It's rarer than merged couples. It's also the only version of closeness that keeps growing after year 7, year 10, year 20. Couples therapist Ellyn Bader, who studies the developmental stages long-term partnerships move through, found something quietly devastating in her research. Most couples get stuck in the second stage, the stage right after the honeymoon, where difference starts to appear, and one or both people flinch away from it. They interpret the flinch as a problem with the relationship. It isn't. It's the invitation into the next stage, the one where two selves finally show up. Most couples never accept the invitation. They collapse back into fusion and call it maturity. Watch for the tells in your own life. You catch yourself saying, "we think," when you mean, "I think." You describe your own opinions using his voice. You mention his job to strangers before you mention what you have been quietly building on the side. You feel a low, unnamed grief on Sunday nights and cannot locate the source. You interpret his bad mood as your responsibility to fix, and interpret your bad mood as something you have to hide from him so the shared weather stays calm. None of that is love. That is the labor of maintaining a merged system that requires one of you to keep disappearing so the peace can hold. And here is the neuroscience piece almost no one talks about. When two people have been fused for long enough, their brains start to co-regulate in ways that feel physically like safety. Cortisol drops in his presence. Your heart rate settles. Your breathing sinks. That is real. That is bonding. That is also exactly why the exit feels impossible. Your nervous system has learned that his proximity equals okay. So when you consider the tiny, honest act of disagreeing out loud, your body reads it as a threat to survival and pulls you back into the merge. You call it love. It is also, quietly, a fear response your body has practiced for years. You can test where you are. Ask yourself one question, honestly. In the last month, did you say something out loud that you knew he'd disagree with, without softening it first? Not to hurt him, just to be seen. If the answer is no, you haven't grown closer. You've grown quieter. The way out is not a fight. The way out is one small, unedited sentence at a time. A preference. A no. A memory of who you were before you started rounding yourself down. Every unedited sentence is a small act of coming back. Not away from him. Toward yourself, while still standing in the same room as him. He can handle it. Most partners, when their person starts differentiating, panic briefly and then follow. Because underneath the fusion, they were lonely too. They just didn't have a name for it either. So look at him tonight. Notice if you can still find the parts of him that don't already agree with you. Notice if you can still find the parts of yourself that don't already agree with him. If those parts are hard to locate, that isn't the end. It's the beginning of the only conversation that actually matters in a long relationship. Because the couples who last aren't the ones who finish each other's sentences. They're the ones who can still hear each other say something new. People tell you you're the perfect couple. You finish each other's sentences, safe like never before. Now you know what safety like that can quietly cost. And you know what a psychologist named it 1 year before you were probably even born. You haven't gotten closer. You've merged. And the way back to him starts with the smallest, bravest thing you can do tonight. Say one true sentence, unedited. Then listen for who answers.